Welcome to Sage Advice. Today we have a special treat for you. We're diving into the world of theater with the incredibly talented Cindy Marinangel. Cindy is an international actress, lifetime member of the Actors Studio, and Chicago Second City Conservatory graduate. She boasts a versatile career spanning stage, screen, and voiceover, with leading roles from a young age and a repertoire that includes straight plays, musicals, dance shows. Cindy's talent has graced stages in Chicago, New Orleans, Las Vegas, Berlin, and Los Angeles. Notably, she has originated over 12 roles in new plays, receiving rave reviews. And as a voiceover artist, she narrates Beyonce's international special and voiced characters in the top video game Brutal Legends. Cindy is also the owner of Angel Baker Productions, producing award-winning shorts like Eternal Waltz. A competitive ballroom dancer with a passion for Latin dance, Cindy's diverse talents extend beyond entertainment to her academic achievements, animal advocacy, and memberships in SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity. And now Cindy's latest endeavor, which we're here to talk about, is Dietrich, a captivating one-woman show written by Willard Manus, which will be playing in Los Angeles this April. We'll get into the exact dates and where you can check that out. It's a critically acclaimed 75-minute solo show with music. The play is based on a true story set in May 1960, marking Marlene Dietrich's return to the Berlin stage for the first time since fleeing the Hitler regime in the 1930s. Inside her dressing room at the Titania Palace Theater, Dietrich grapples with the decision to go through with a live performance despite threats on her life by Nazi sympathizers. To them, Dietrich is perceived as a traitor for entertaining American soldiers during World War II, and her return to the stage becomes a dangerous gamble. Let's take a look at a trailer for the show.
Concert. Stay there in Hollywood, away from the reach of those brown shirts. They are a bunch of butchers. They are going to turn Germany into a slaughterhouse. Yes, I am afraid. Oh yes, Hollywood. I was the best dressed man in Hollywood. Sex with a woman is much more pleasurable and less stressful. I was never against Germany. It was the Nazis I hated. Still hate. Outside the barracks, by the corner light, I'll always stand and wait for you at night.
So Cindy, welcome. Can we just start by having you introduce this show a bit more to us and sharing with us what audience can expect from this show this coming April in Los Angeles?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, first of all. I'm very excited. I've been performing Dietrich for a few years before the pandemic. We had a premiere in Los Angeles. It's written by Willard Manus. The play is called Dietrich, written by Willard Manus and directed by Mitch Levine. Judith Rose did original direction back in Los Angeles, and I had Michael B. Doan and Gary Swanson put some hands on it in New York. I was able before the pandemic, to get it in limited off-Broadway runs out in New York and put it in some festivals over on Theater Row, etc. Very excited about that. And then, as you mentioned, Will Manus offered me the rights to the play, which I purchased during the pandemic. Excuse me. And so I'm currently the owner of the play, which is very exciting. And this is its first time getting back up on its feet since the pandemic, and thrilled to bring it back to audiences. A lot of people have been asking me about it. And I do think that the message is very timely with all the political things going on in the world. Dietrich really took a stand against Hitler in her life. If you're not familiar with who she was born in 1901 in Berlin. She was the first German crossover actress. Her first film was called The Blue Angel, and it was recorded in German and English in Berlin. The director Josef von Sternberg was tied to Paramount, and he got Dietrich a deal at Paramount. And so she was brought over. The first film they actually did together was called Morocco here at Paramount. And they actually launched that before they brought The Blue Angel to America. They famously did six films in 6 years. They famously did 7 films in 6 years together. And Josef von Sternberg was an Austrian Jew. So at the time, it was very dangerous for her to be doing things post-war, etc. with him. Hitler took over the film studio UFA in Berlin, and he invited Marlene Dietrich back to become his queen of the studio. At that time, she kind of felt the tones of what was happening in Germany, and she stayed in America. She said, well, thank you, I'll think about this. And then she took off with her husband back to America. She joined the US Army actually, and toured on the front lines for 6 years with the US Army against the Germans. And Hitler had a shoot to kill order on her. And Patton famously gave her a pistol saying, you know, if they come for you, shoot as many of them as you can, but always save the last bullet for yourself, because you don't want them to take you alive. So after the war, she rushed back, found her mother, her sister, etc. And her mother died in 1945. So shortly thereafter, Dietrich buried her mother in Berlin. And then she did not return to Berlin until the night of this play that I actually do, which is set in May 3rd, 1960. So she came back May 3rd, 1960, as a sort of a welcome back home. She was very excited to bring her show back to her hometown of Berlin. And what she encountered was a bomb threat at the theater. Protesters outside of the theater with signs saying, Marlene, go home. Nazi sympathizers threatening to shoot her if she dared step on stage, all based on true stories. So I play her backstage, deciding whether or not to go on. Is this the last year of her life? Is this it? It's beautifully written by Willard Manus, and Mitch Levine and I have been working hard. We're adding a couple songs. If you've seen the play before, come see it. More songs are being added. I'm always tweaking the script just to get a little bit more drama in, a little bit more edge in. And so Will gave me a fantastic base to build off of, and I'm just thrilled to bring it back to Los Angeles and launch it again. I am interested in taking it on a tour, so I'd love to bring it back to New York.
That's fantastic. What are the dates of the show?
So the show in Los Angeles is April 2nd, 9, and 16. Those are 3 consecutive Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. It's a guest production in the other space at the Santa Monica Playhouse.
That's fantastic. Talk to me a bit about the music in the show. You mentioned that there's a few more songs being added. How does the music, is it fair to think of it as a musical? How does the music end up in this show?
Sure. So it's technically considered a play with music, and you can find out lots more about the show by going to my website, which is dietrichplay.com. There's also a ticket link there. Dietrich is spelled Diet Rich, so dietrichplay.com, basically. The music. So on the front lines, Dietrich originally signed up with the USO, and they said, you know, what can you do? Can you dance? She was like, no. They said, can you sing? She went, okay, sure. You know, she had sung famously different songs in some of the 7 films that she did with Josef von Sternberg over those 6 years. And so they pulled from that. So she got a lot of experience in front of the troops. Unfortunately, she'd be singing to thousands of guys in one day, and then they'd have a battle and there'd be hundreds left. So she really took on her singing and her performances. She knew what an impact it was making. So I bring in a couple of her famous songs from The Blue Angel. There's Falling in Love Again, which everyone's always excited to hear. And then there's a famous song at the end, I don't want to give it away, that was made famous in World War I and that she brought back in World War II. It was actually used she's credited as a spy, and they used this song, the American government used this song to help make the troops sad in Germany, to weaken them. So that will be ending the show. And I have a couple others. She had this voice, right? This deep voice, which is part of why I was drawn to her. Is I also have a deep voice, and I thought, oh, I can sing in her range. And she wasn't a singer, but she sang, and neither am I, but I do. So the songs are really beautiful and cool and vampy and sexy and all of that.
Love that. Well, I was going to ask you what drew you to playing this role and how did the project come to you? I know you said you began working on it pre-pandemic, but so the voice, but what else inspired you about this? Was it something you'd been thinking about playing Dietrich before the script came? How did it all unfold for you?
So Will Manus, again, the playwright, he wrote a ton of plays, and he cast me in a play about the Cold War called Berlin Cowboys. And I was cast as a Puffmutti, which is a madam. So I was a German madam in the Cold War, and he had me singing Falling in Love Again. And I didn't know who Dietrich was. And when I saw it, I went, oh, wow, who is this woman? And wow, what an incredible career she had. She died in 1992 in Paris. The Parisian government paid for her rent the last few years of her life, fun fact. Um, and so I said to Will afterwards, I said, wow, she's really cool. He said, yeah. He said, hey, I've got this play about Mae West. Would you do it? And I said, all right, I'll do it. I started learning the walk and, and all that. And I said, but, if you ever have anything on Dietrich, I'd really be interested. So 2 weeks later, I get in the mail a hand-typed letter from Will saying, I wrote this script 20 years ago for an actress about Marlene Dietrich. It's never been performed. Her daughter, Maria, has written a new book at the time, and it's come out. There's more information on her. And I'm going to Scotland for the summer, and I'm going to rewrite this play for you. So in the meantime, I had moved from LA to New York. He says, what are you doing in New York? I said, I want to do theater. He says, well, get back to LA. I got theater here for you. So I came back for a summer and was cast in a different play. And we were dark on Sundays. And I said to him, look, I'm here. Why don't we put up Dietrich? And he said, can you do 2 world premieres at once? And I said, sure. Don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. Do not memorize an hour and 20-minute show and another play at the same time. Just don't do it. I did it, but I wanted to kill myself. So we put it up. And the first night, you push to get audience, and after that, we were holding to add more seats, and it was a tiny black box, and they literally put someone in a chair for an audience member about 1.5 feet away from me for the show. It was packed, which bless the people who came and loved it. And when I brought it to New York, I was in New York about 2.5 years before the pandemic hit. And the same thing happened. We had to hold for more seats to come in. The Santa Monica Playhouse does not allow you to add more seats. But I'm hoping for the same response, that people tell their friends they love it and they're pushing to see it. And if I have to extend, well, then perhaps I will. Let's see what happens here. But yeah, it's been a long journey, and the more I'm still learning about Marlene's life, and she was incredible.
What are some of the funnest things you've learned about her in playing this role?
Well, back in the day, the press wasn't the way it was now. Now we're looking for everything we can to make people look more human or take them down a notch. Back then, they were very well protected. And Gary Springer's father actually was her press agent. And back in the day, and he also represented Sinatra, etc. But Dietrich was notoriously bisexual, which was kept from the press. But she is credited with the first girl-on-girl screen kiss in Morocco. And she liked to dress in tuxedos and suits. She was arrested in Paris for wearing pants. So, Madonna in Vogue, the song Vogue, she has Dietrich and DiMaggio, right? And so Madonna emulated her in her famous bow tie tuxedo pictures. So Dietrich was the first person to really be out there and be unapologetic about it.
Mm.
She had one daughter, Maria. She was married to her husband in Berlin. They remained married until he died, but they had a completely open relationship. So he had a woman that he had a relationship with for many, many years. Dietrich supported that family, bought them homes, etc. And Maria, her daughter, had four sons, all named with the same first name, John, and then changed all their middle names, which is kind of cool. Um, and she, was a force. She was very strong and very unapologetic about her views. One thing that I think is incredible that we're trying to weave into the play just as a fact is because she had access to Hitler at the end of her life, she said she should have enacted this plan. She had a plan to kill Hitler. And it was
Wow.
that she would go back and say, "Oh, Hitler, I love you, and I was wrong, and blah blah blah." And she was offering to go in nude into her room to show that she was unarmed with a poisoned hairpin. So she knew she could get into him, kind of seduce him, stick him in the neck, right, kill him, but they didn't know how she would get out of the room alive. So it never happened. And
Wow.
after the war, she had special access through the US Army to go back into Berlin, and she was looking for her family, etc. Her house was bombed, all this stuff. And when she saw the bodies piled high, in the concentration camps, she said, "There is no God, first of all. He wouldn't let this happen." She lost her faith there. And she said, and then later in her life, she felt that she could have saved thousands by sacrificing herself. So she was an incredible woman. She was awarded the Medal of Freedom from America for her help in aiding Jews coming out. She donated an entire film salary with Billy Wilder to rescue Jews, bring them to America, find them jobs and housing. And she also was awarded from Paris the Légion d'honneur, which is their highest award. And also in Israel, she is the first woman and the first and the first German to receive their highest honor as well. So she was very highly decorated in her life.
Wow. What an incredible force, what an incredible woman that we don't know enough about. So it's amazing you're doing this show. Where do you start? Where did you start in your process? Because I know that you have this incredible background in being trained as an actor as well as a dancer. Is there a physical entry point for you? Is it the voice? What was your journey like in finding Dietrich for yourself?
Well, I think the fastest way, because I had no time when I was first putting this up,
That's right.
hired a wonderful dialect coach that I'm working with again, Glenda Morgan Brown, who would just sit in rehearsals and flag words I was saying incorrectly. So I was
Mm.
not only building, like memorizing things, but also building an accent fast. And I'd studied German in high school, so that helped me a little bit. But Dietrich, because she was wealthy in Berlin, and so she studied French. She was fluent in French, which I am not. But she was also brought to America, and then Paramount put her through a lot of their rigors back then. They trained people a lot. So she didn't have the VW switch where but what Dietrich had was a speech impediment. She couldn't say R very well. So she sounded like Elmer Fudd, America, if you listen to her words. So I had to put in, so every R has to be a W sound. And then I watched a lot of YouTube. I've read as many books as I can. I've seen as many videos as I can. I was in New York. I was in the library there, the art library, searching for
Yeah.
articles about May 3rd, 1960. And honestly, there's one little clip of her in her famous bow tie tuxedo saying that it was a smash hit show, right? So she not only faced death there, but she said, in an interview later, she said, in 1960, who wants to be bombed? What is that? She thought it was ridiculous. And she came away saying, the Germans and I no longer speak the same language. I mean, she was heartbroken, really. Another fun fact just to throw in is the year she passed, she was on all the flags for the Cannes Film Festival. So her picture was all over the city anyway. And then she passed, which is fascinating. So yeah, this woman has had an incredible life. She's a role model to women in this day and age, which is why I'm really thrilled to bring her back to teach women. I find a little bit, you know, they always say, my acting teacher used to say, Cindy, put the gun down. Like, it's not, you know, like, let yourself relax through this, which I think is a great acting. You know, you get nervous before, right? And she said to me, and part of the putting the gun down for me was, not everybody knows her. It's not like I'm playing Madonna where everybody can still compare. I'm educating people about this woman's life and bringing her back to show that her message of unapologetic strength is still valid today, especially with what's happening in the wars happening, which I can't, you know, Dietrich was anti-war, anti-killing. She very much advocated for that. She sang, you know, Where Have All the Flowers Gone? I got to sing that for International Peace Day in New York when I first moved there. So you know, this piece speaks to not only veterans who knew her. Oh, one more fun fact. I was flown over the summer to the World War II weekend at the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum. I did 9 shows singing her shows in their officers club as her, and I didn't break character all weekend. I spent 3 days in character, which is awesome. And
Awesome.
a veteran, you know, they're all in wheelchairs at this point, but a couple of them met her and they said, you know, she used to sit bedside and help these soldiers die.
Wow. Oh,
Which I have not read in any books. So not only
I
did
just got
she sleep,
chills. That's
yeah,
amazing.
that's a truth. That's a truth.
Ooh, chilling.
She felt it was her duty to sleep with as many of them as she could because they could die, you know. And so, bless her heart. I try not to judge how many people she slept with of both. I try not to judge and just go get them, girl. But she not only slept with them, but sat by their beds, and that I had not heard, and that touched me when I heard that.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
She was an
Wow.
incredible
Okay.
woman.
So just one more time, the dates and the place where everyone watching this interview can go see this show if they're in Los Angeles or fly out if they're not.
The show is coming on at the other space at the Santa Monica Playhouse as a guest production, April 2nd, 9, and 16 at 7:30 p.m. Opening night, we will have a little red carpet beforehand, so come early if you'd like to be interviewed, and we're going to get reactions after the play as well. And I'm really excited. You can go to dietrichplay.com. There's a ticket link at the top, and there's all the information about myself and reviews and things from the past on there, as well as the trailer. So you can check it out there again. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for sharing. This is such an incredible project, and break all the legs and have the best time. I'm so excited for this show.
Thank you so much. And hopefully it'll be, you know, coming to a city near you, because I am interested in touring with the play.